It really does. And I have to say, its greatest strength is that documentation. I mean, it just completely obliterates the FBI's claim that this guy was some kind of, virtual ghost.
Right. No presence at all.
Exactly. So the job now isn't about finding more evidence. It's about how we sharpen the delivery of what's already here to make it impossible to ignore.
Okay, I agree. The sheer volume is the weapon. So let's jump right in. Where do we start with refining that structure?
Well, the material effectively presents an overwhelming amount of evidence. But reorganizing the core findings into thematic chapters would strengthen the structural flow and amplify the investigative narrative.
So you're saying group it differently. My first thought is, if you front load all the digital evidence, the accounts, the comments, do you risk kind of giving it all away too early?
I see what you're saying, but I think in this case, the government's claim rests entirely on him having no online life. So you have to kill that idea first.
Okay. You dismantle the foundation before you attack the building.
Precisely. The weakness right now is that it feels a bit like a data dump. Here are 700 comments, here are 12 accounts, and then here's a long list of questions. It's a little overwhelming.
So the suggestion is to create maybe 3 really distinct sections for the digital evidence before we even get to the alleged cover-up.
Yes, give the reader clear signposts, and you can use the investigation's own findings to create these powerful, almost cinematic chapter titles.
Okay, I'm listening.
For instance, the first section could just be called The Digital Ghost Myth.
I like that. That's good. It's aggressive, and it uses their own words against them.
It frames the whole thing immediately. And this is where you just relentlessly, point by point, dismantle their initial statement. You list the account.
You have the main Gmail, tmcrooks7@gmail.com.
Right, but then you hit them with the foreign encrypted one, the American Gamer at gmx.com.
And the bcook@mailfence.com.
And, crucially, the aliases. This is where it gets really compelling.
Yeah. The submission points out he had a PayPal account as Rod Swanson.
Rod Swanson. And a Google Play account called Colossal Microwave. I mean, you have to lean into how bizarre that is.
So the point isn't just that he had accounts, it's the texture of his digital life.
Exactly. A guy with an encrypted Belgian email and an account named after a kitchen appliance is not a ghost. It makes the official claim sound not just wrong, but frankly, intentionally absurd. You establish that right up front.
Okay, that's a powerful opening. So after establishing his presence, the next logical step is his ideology, that pivot.
Yes, the second chapter has to be something like the political transformation timeline.
And this is where you directly contrast the two personas.
You put them side by side. The material shows him in 2019 calling Trump the literal definition of patriotism.
Right, and calling for death to deplorable immigrants. Really extreme stuff.
And then, just a few months later, in early 2020, he's calling Trump supporters a cult, he's for COVID lockdowns, he's attacking conservative media.
That's not a gradual shift. That's a complete ideological U-turn.
It's a violent inversion. And you need to underline how unnatural and how quick that 180 was. It's not just a guy changing his mind. It feels engineered. It sets the stage for what comes next.
Which is the intent. The final piece of the digital puzzle.
The final piece. You call this section the terrorist mindset.
And this is where all the preparatory evidence goes.
Everything. The search history is chilling. Jack Ruby, best places for mass shooting.
Fertilizer bomb, how to make napalm.
And you pair that with the quotes from his digital manifesto, calling for terrorism-style attacks on politicians. So you see, you've built a case in 3 clear steps: presence, pivot, and preparation. Now the reader is ready for the cover-up because the case is already airtight.
That structure is so much more forceful. It's a narrative, not a list. And that pivot you mentioned leads us perfectly into the second major point of this critique.
It really does.
It's about the single most fascinating character in this whole story.
To maximize the report's significance and originality, the narrative should pivot from simply proving FBI lied to framing Crooks' documented journey as a verifiable case of ideological radicalization and potential operational grooming.
Okay, so from what I've read, this character, Willie Tepes, is introduced almost as an afterthought. He shows up late, and then the report just moves on to bureaucratic failures.
And that is the central weakness of the whole piece. You've buried the lead. Willie Tepes isn't a detail. He might be the entire story.
He's the potential link between Crooks's internal thoughts and external action.
He's the bridge. The material traces Tepes to a foreign Antifa website that's linked to the Nordic resistance movement. The State Department calls them a terrorist group.
That can't be a footnote.
It has to be the climax of the investigation. The suggestion here is to elevate that exchange with Willie Tepes. Make it the definitive turning point. This is where you can present a theory of actual recruitment.
So we frame it as the moment the threat goes from internal to external.
Yes, you position his appearance right as he starts pressuring Crooks to commit violence, and right before Crooks' digital footprint just stops, as the moment this becomes operational. That's what makes this a story of national importance.
And how do we sell that idea that this was actual grooming, not just two extremists talking online?
You use their own word. You highlight the specific provocative comments from Tape. The material notes, he said something like, "We have nothing to lose and everything to win."
He says that right after Crooks posts his manifesto.
See? That's not just cheering him on. That sounds like intentional prodding. It's operational language. It's framing the mission.
So this reframes the whole report. It's not just the FBI missed this. It could be the FBI is not telling us about a targeted recruitment operation.
Exactly. And this leads to the most critical, actionable change you need to make. You have to reframe your core questions around this person.
So it's not enough to just ask, who is Willie Tepes?
No, that's too passive. The report needs to demand all FBI records on his identity, his links to that group, and, this is the most important part, any potential asset connection the Bureau had with him.
So you're suggesting he could have been an informant or an asset.
You have to ask the question. It establishes Tepes as the primary suspect in Crooks's final action. It gives the whole investigation a forward-looking purpose beyond just correcting the record.
That is much sharper. It's a demand for transparency about current operations. Okay, let's move to that final section then. The call for transparency. It's strong, but it's a bit sprawling.
Yeah. The final call for accountability relies on a strong set of rhetorical questions, but condensing and prioritizing these into two focused themes will create a more actionable and compelling demand for transparency.
The current version has, over 20 questions? And it mixes huge things like evidence destruction with smaller points, like whether Director Wray misspoke. It dilutes the impact.
You have to distill it down. Pick the 6 or 8 most damning points and group them under 2 banners that scream malfeasance. Something like physical evidence destruction and digital oversight failure.
Okay, let's start with the physical evidence. The details in the submission are frankly shocking. You can build a strong case for willful obstruction.
So you lead with the most provocative question. For physical evidence destruction, you have to ask who made the decision to release Crooks' body for cremation only 10 days after the shooting.
And you have to add the timing, specifically on the day the House investigations began.
Yes, that timing is everything. It prevents any outside verification of the autopsy, the talk screen. It's too convenient to be a coincidence.
And you follow that up immediately with the crime scene itself. That detail is incredible.
It's staggering. You have to ask, why did an FBI agent from the Technical Hazards Response Unit personally hose down the crime scene?
Instead of just using a standard third-party cleanup crew.
Right. That specific unit is not your local cleanup service. They're brought in for sensitive material remediation. Their involvement suggests a high-level decision was made to control and potentially erase the evidence at that scene.
2 major forensic opportunities, the body and the scene, gone deliberately. That's a powerful 1-2 punch.
It is. Now for the second category, digital oversight failure, which, is really about deception.
This gets back to the digital ghost claim.
Exactly. You have to ask. If Crooks was posting hundreds of specific assassination threats under his real name from 2019 to 2020, why wasn't he detected?
The context of federal law enforcement was at that exact time issuing massive contracts to tech companies to monitor social media for exactly this kind of threat.
Yes! It puts their failure in sharp relief. They were supposedly building the perfect tool to find this guy, and yet they missed him entirely?
It just doesn't add up. And the final question has to be about what they did find but didn't disclose.
Right. the encrypted accounts.
The ones in Belgium and Germany. The report says they did access them.
So the final question is, given that the FBI accessed Crooks' phone and his foreign encrypted accounts, which completely disproves their digital ghost claim, why was none of this critical activity mentioned in the final congressional report in December 2024?
That's it. Those focused questions demand an accounting for malfeasance, not just incompetence. It's much stronger.
Is, and that really brings us to the end of the critique.
So to quickly recap, we've laid out 3 major changes to take this from a really solid document to an explosive narrative.
First, you've got to restructure the evidence. Those 3 thematic chapters, the digital ghost myth, the political transformation timeline, and the terrorist mindset. That gives it a clear, powerful flow.
Right. Second, elevate Willie Tepes. He's not a footnote, he's potentially the key to the entire story. You frame the narrative around his radicalizing influence and demand records on him.
And finally, you sharpen those final questions. Condense that long list into 2 focused investigative priorities: physical evidence destruction and digital deception. Use the most shocking facts, the cremation, the hosing of the crime scene, to demand immediate accountability.
Implementing these changes will make this material impossible to dismiss. It's been a pleasure to dig into this. Thank you for submitting such a fascinating piece of work.
Yes, absolutely. We would love to see the improved version. Please send it back in anytime for a follow-up.